What is a biome? A biome is a community of plants and animals that have common characteristics for the environment that they exist in. Biodiversity is the term used to describe the variability among the living organisms from all sources, including diversity within species, between species, and of ecosystems. The coral reef biome is one of the most biodiverse ecosystems that rivals the rainforest. It is an aquatic biome that usually has an average temperature ranging between 20 to 28 degrees Celsius and with an annual average rainfall of 78.75 inches. It is usually close to the surface, as sunlight is the main source of energy in this biome. You can look at this climate graph of the Great Barrier Reef in Australia from 2019 for further reference. Coral are small invertebrate animals who are similar in structure to that of sea anemones. They are made out of small animals called polyps that hold algae, which is their source of food. It has a sac-like body with tentacles at its top that it uses to get food. The colors shown in coral are from the microorganisms that they catch called zooxanthellae. Coral is translucent. It expels calcium carbonate to create its exoskeleton. This becomes visible after coral bleaching, which is when coral is stressed and it expels its algae. These biomes are found in clear tropical and subtropical oceans around the world, such as the Atlantic, West Pacific, and Indian Oceans. Although they cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, they house almost 25% of all aquatic life. They can be found on the coasts of the Caribbean, East Africa, Brazil, and Florida, among others. Coral reefs are found in wavy places because the waves help to move nutrients, oxygen, and food around the ecosystem. There are three main types of reefs: fringing reefs, barrier reefs, and atolls. There is a wide variety of plants and animals present in the coral reef biome. Coral reefs have a variety of diverse photosynthetic plants that live underwater. Since the sun is the main source of energy in the ecosystem, photosynthesis is an important factor in vegetation growth. The zooxanthellae provide oxygen to the coral, while the coral polyps remove the carbon dioxide through respiration. Phytoplankton and algae used as food sources for fish. The main form of vegetation are angiosperms, seagrasses, mangroves, algae, seaweed, and benthic diatoms. Other vegetation such as seagrass act as housing for conch, while mangroves are used for the nurseries. The most common animals that are found in the reefs are manatee, dugong, sea turtle, barracuda, goatfish, angelfish, crab, and sea snakes. Some animals use the reefs as pit stops for things like laying eggs, while others stay in the reef. The food chains in this biome are extremely diverse that they make an incredible food web. A food web is essentially a system of interconnected food chains. The trophic levels, which are the different levels that organisms are on the food chain, transfer energy and nutrients. Only 10% of the energy is transferred, while the remaining 90% is used in growth, digestion, and movement, among other things. The importance of balance of these trophic levels is that the energy flowing through the organisms allow each organism to move, thrive, and help the biome perform its job. In addition, consumers usually have more than one food source, so if there is a decrease in one species, the consumer won't go hungry. However, if there's a shortage of species, then the cycle is broken. If there is no food, then organisms die. Some animals may die to competition in the area. The competition is between two species or more for a food source or resource. If there is not enough, it is heightened when one species eventually dies.
There are several reasons why coral reef ecosystems are integral to the upkeep of our health and the environment. Coral reefs provide us with seafood, for example, lobsters, fishes, and conch. It protects the land from severe weather by taking the impact of strong waves and storms. Coral reefs ensure the secure mooring for boats. It recycles and removes carbon dioxide. It also attracts tourists, which boosts the economy because of tourist industries and tourist activities. Coral reefs are home to biodiversity. Without the reefs, many of these plants and animals would no longer survive. Coral reefs are also in manufacturing traditional medicines for people, and it is a useful educational tool. The tribal indigenous people of Australia, also known as Aboriginal people, are quite famous in Australia. Although the term indigenous means people of the area's descent, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders are people who came after colonization in various places. The term used is now Aboriginal Australians. Both the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders communities have had the coral reef a part of their cultures for a long time. They knew of its existence even before the Europeans. The Aboriginal Australians had special canoes that allowed them to travel towards the island, in and beyond the Great Barrier Reefs. They also used to move communities, and some cultural sites are set up here and there. An example of one of the largest reefs is the Great Barrier Reef. It is found in the northeast coast of Australia. It has a vast area of over 350,000 square kilometers. It is a home to more than 22,100 individual reefs and 800 fringing reefs. The Great Barrier Reef has the most diverse collection of marine species in the whole world. Coral reefs have faced many threats at the Great Barrier Reef. The threat that has incredibly reduced the corals are coral bleaching. In 2016 and 2017, the growth of coral reefs declined 89% in Great Barrier Reef because of the coral bleaching occurrence. Scientists studied on this matter and found out that 89% of newborn corals are significantly decreasing. The Great Barrier Reef has been suffering the loss of coral since 1988, and it is still ongoing. This also disrupted the process of the food chain cycle for the ecosystem living in the Great Barrier Reef. The water also has been affected by this and has resulted in loss of minerals, and there has been a huge reduction of population. Tourism industries across the coastline of Great Barrier Reef has been significantly helping the livelihood of the locals, boosting the economy, uplifting the development of the country, and protecting the shores of the country. Every year, over 2 million tourists visit the Great Barrier Reef. However, this causes both direct exploitation of reef resources and indirect effects from human activities in the coastal area, which leads to coral decline, and if the coral is still not taken care of, then it can probably become extinct in a few decades.
In the past, human dependency of the sea was essential because it served as a major transportation network, source of food, and source of revenue from tourism industries. This ecosystem provided both economic and social importance of the sea. Currently, these activities and other factors now threaten the sea. According to the UN, sea surface temperatures will rise by 1 to 3 degrees Celsius, sea levels will increase, and regional weather patterns will change, which might result in the upcoming storms, floods, or cyclones. Moreover, the pH will also decline because of the absorption of carbon dioxide, which leads to ocean acidification, and there will be a modification of ocean circulation patterns. Aquatic life in the coral reef biome will suffer if they don't adapt quickly. The 3 changes that will affect aquatic life are food supply, natural habitat, and ocean chemistry. There are many issues that are caused by human intervention. Coral reefs are crucial to the maintaining of the biodiversity and the lives of the organisms in the oceans. They also help to recycle carbon dioxide that contribute to global warming. Nowadays, due to the widespread pollution in the air and in the water, sediments, pollutants, and other harmful chemicals harm the development of this biome. These are some of the issues. Sediment cover the coral and prevent sunlight exposure. Global warming strikes climate change that changes precipitation patterns and makes ocean levels rise. Reefs need to stay shallow, and if not attained, organisms like algae and zooxanthellae cannot survive. Furthermore, killing coral and killing food sources for various animals. In addition, human interaction with coral is harmful as well. Reckless touristic activities such as driving over coral or standing/breaking coral harm years of constructed development. This can also be done by coral harvesting, which is the act of using coral to create and sell jewelry. Sediment can be brought in from the shoreline where construction takes place. When the coral is covered with dirt and sediment, it becomes hard for sunlight to penetrate the water and for the coral to perform photosynthesis, ultimately dying. If the coral is dead, the reef dies as well, because coral is responsible for a lot of the resources and happenings in this ecosystem. Overfishing as well as dynamite fishing are also crucial issues, as a decrease in fish sparks the overgrowth of algae infecting the coral waters. Sewage is also a great contributor to reef destruction. Let's analyze one detail in depth. Overfishing is also another huge issue. The positive social impact here is that local fishermen have a hotspot where they can fish in abundance. This allows more fishermen to get more successful jobs near the coral reefs. However, the negative impact of this is that it will cause competition between fishermen, and it could possibly raise the prices in the fish market. The impact is more of a socio-economic impact, but with both positive and negative attributes. The social side being negative, and the economic side being positive. The economic impact will overall be positive because local fishermen will be in a time of financial enjoyment and a time where they can provide for their families. The political impact of overfishing is that it could cause havoc not only in the ecosystem but also in the market and in the government, as mentioned previously. This is done because if such an asset such as the coral reef biome has been destroyed in turns, it is due to the action of overfishing, then that it would cause some legal issues with fishermen. The negative impact is that biodiversity of the coral reef biome is heavily impacted, as the fish are responsible for maintaining the algae growth and maintaining the flow of nutrients and oxygen throughout the ecosystem. If there are less fish, then algae growth will stunt and cover the coral, which prevents it from getting nutrients it needs to thrive. In addition, the method of overfishing used by these fishermen negatively impacts the ecosystem because these methods such as cyanide or dynamite fishing not only destroy the coral but also affect other animals and organisms as well as the purity of the ocean water. This not only hurts coral growth but the ocean entirely, which is an essential asset to our sustainable life.
Solutions to coral reef destruction. If the issue is not solved, then the reef will not protect the shores from the impact of strong waves. We can sustain this aquatic life by coming up with effective strategies that help to stop harming the corals. As we can see from the evidence above, there are many consequences that are affecting the coral reef biome. If we don't take immediate action for intervention on the coast, then millions of corals will die. We can save the lives of hundreds of thousands of corals by just working together and removing them from vulnerable situations. There are some tips which we can put our full effort in sustaining the aquatic life. Avoid using cosmetic products to protect the skin from sunburn, as the plastic pollution harms the corals. Try to be cautious when reaching near the corals, especially when snorkeling or scuba diving. Don't touch the reefs and anchor your boats far away from the corals. Use biodegradable products that can easily reuse or recycle. This will prevent inland pollution. Reduce the use of fertilizers, as these nutrients enter the oceans and harm the corals. Buying electrical cars is fuel efficient, as these transportation reduces the greenhouse gases that are released in the atmosphere. Last but not least, we need to raise our voices, teach information of coral reefs to the community, and build a future for coral reefs biomes. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, known as EPA, incorporates its Clean Water Act as well as the inclusion of the U.S. Coral Reef Task Force to enforce the protection of coral reefs. It also implores federal agencies that are close to coral reefs to use their authoritative power to protect coral reefs, maintain the upkeep and stop all human activity that harms or poses a threat to these reefs. These are some of its regulation and tasks. The US is part of the International Coral Reef Initiative, which is signed between numerous countries to protect, develop, and research the ecosystems of the coral reef biome. All acts done by the EPA have been put under there. The International Coral Reef Initiative, as described by the official UN website, says the SDG aimed towards this project is Goal 14, Life Underwater. The UN initiative has made this in such recognition that it ensures the works of national protection groups like the US EPA.
We hope you learned something about the coral reef biome and its biodiversity. We also hope that you will try and help to sustain and respect the biodiversity of the coral reef biome. Thank you for listening.